Tournament that has become one of the major events in our sporting calendar. But beneath all the hoopla and the trappings is evidence of growing pains, crises that are documented in the daily newspapers and on the evening news, recruiting scandals, drug abuse, illegal payments, and so forth. Now, to give us a better idea of where things stand, CBS Sports has sought out some of the major personalities in and around the collegiate community to get their views on the current state of campus life and college sports.
Everybody sees the dollar sign. Clink, clink, the cash register rings. And I read an article one time by a writer from New Haven, Register, Connecticut, by the name of George Wadley. And I think if I could steal from him, he best describes, I think, the present condition. He says, what's the problem with major college athletics today? He says, it's patently obvious. It's greed. Who's to blame? The administrators, the NCAA, the coaches, and yes, even we in the media. We live off of it.
I think that probably the miracle is not that we have an SMU every now and then, but we don't. The miracle is that we don't have an SMU a day, given the tremendous pressures on the coaches and the amount of money and so forth that are involved in this process now.
I don't think there's any question it's big business. The basketball game we're watching tonight is worth about $1 million to each team, I guess, or close to it. No, I think it's big business, but that doesn't mean it has to be dirty business.
After we played a game in the NCAA tournament, that was said on the bus on the way back home that we had to shoot a couple of free throws, and one of the people on the bus had said that was for about $100 and some thousand, and it really shook us up because we really don't think about those things out on the court when you're playing.
Television, in my view, is not the cause of the problems. It is part of the issue, to be sure. But what the colleges do with the money that we pay them is the crucial issue.
People take a look at the big television contracts and they think that universities are making millions and millions of dollars through their athletic programs, so this is why we have all the abuses that college presidents are willing to turn their heads, and athletic directors and coaches for that revenue. The fact is there's a few schools that are doing very well financially, while most of us are just struggling to make ends meet.
I told our kids, our student body, I was speaking to them last November, and that question came up. Coach, what do you think about drug testing athletes? I said, hey, if they made me president for a day, I'd drug test all of you. And they all laughed and got a big kick out of that. And I said, and the reason I would is to find out if some of you have a problem. And if you got a problem, then let's do something about it. And that's why I'm all for drug testing.
Universities are supposed to teach our children respect for other people's rights, and here's an organization of schools running roughshod over those rights.
And when the NCAA is trying to make a point for as athletes should be the same as students, and I believe if you're going to test athletes, then therefore you have to test all the students and everyone else involved in life in general. But to point out an athlete, I think that's stereotyping an athlete and making him look like that he's a drug user when you have to mandatory testing.
The athletic department ought to come under the same scrutiny that the library comes under, the facilities for your engineering school and what have you. And if the athletic department is found wanting, they should not be accredited.
I think that once you see a person that has encountered the educational experience of athletics and gone into society and been able to adjust, I think that that's very good. But so many of the kids live in the fantasy part of athletics that they aren't able to make that adjustment, and that's what you find very frightening at times. That athlete should take from that institution educational skills sufficient to allow him to live as a normal and productive and contributing citizen in this high-tech society. If he does not take that, then he has been ripped off.
I want him to go away and say, well, I learned more in basketball than in any class I took in Indiana. Basketball was by far the most educational experience that I had when I was at Indiana. And if that kid says, well, chemistry 401 was my, and I want to find out what the hell that guy is teaching in chemistry 401, because I ought to be teaching it in basketball.
CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue with second half action after this message and a word from your local station.